Chapter 23 in Matthew is one of the saddest chapters in the whole Bible. Jesus had no fun. There are times God doesn't have fun at all. And he had no fun telling the Pharisees on what they were like. He didn't want to do it. But he also wanted to do it. So it just pained him that he had to come really strong and hard on them. And so he basically kind of, in their face, he kind of put the trumpet right up in their face, and told them what they were like, the scribes, the Pharisees, and it was in front of everyone. Because really, they were living their lives in front of everyone, and he wanted to let the people know, and he wanted to let them know, and his disciples to know, that's important, that there is a real division, a real separation from the good and the bad. And people who appear to be good, like some people who go to church, some people who act real nice and all that, they can be really wicked on the inside. It's called hypocrisy. And I think he said the word 7 times in chapter 23. Hypocrisy, if you remember, is like, it really means play acting, pretending. So they were actually putting on the face of holiness, being righteous people, acting like they were good. They prayed really long prayers. And well, I'll go through the list. And Jesus went through the list in chapter 23 of Matthew. So we're going to find out what this mask was. Well, what's inside, actually. The mask was they seemed to appear, and that's the important thing, on the outside, they appeared good, but they weren't. Do you know how many people are like that nowadays? Even in churches, in all the religions and everything, Jewish people, Christians even, or so-called Christians. There's a lot of hypocrisy. And you could be a Pharisee too, and I can be a Pharisee. We can all slip into that. And that's why it's important to know what he said to these Pharisees. Because really, I'll be honest, God cannot stand Phariseeism or the bad parts, of living with a hypocrisy. He really has nothing good to say. And he's going to have judgment. There's a judgment day coming where everyone's going to stand before Jesus Christ, not the Father. Everyone's going to stand before Jesus Christ. He is the appointed judge. We'll see that in John chapter 5. He is the appointed judge here, and they're going to stand before him, and he's going to do what he did at that time, only it's even going to be worse. Although, I'll tell you what, this chapter is the toughest things that Jesus ever said throughout the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. More severe, more harsh, really tough. As a matter of fact, pretty soon you're going to say he even did name calling. He called them names and everything. And there is a time for that. And he was like, the time was up. Like he tried to reach him. He talked to him. He really reached out to him. He ate dinner. We'll see that he ate supper with the Pharisees. He really loved these people. It wasn't like he just didn't like them. Well, he didn't like them. He didn't like what they were like at all. But he loved them as a human being, and he did everything he could, even to the point where you kind of had to get tough on people and blowing the trumpet, putting that truth right out there. It made them furious. Although, the Bible doesn't say this, it's very possible that a few of them ended up really getting saved because of it. Was it worth Jesus doing that? Yeah, absolutely. If he just saved one person out of that group. And sometimes you need to be rebuked. Have you ever been really, really corrected hard? You have, haven't you? I have too. We've all experienced that time. You go through like someone's yelling at you or someone's really correcting you. We all make mistakes. Problem is, most of these Pharisees, they didn't take this hard, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're guilty, guilty, guilty. They didn't take that and let it change their lives. And that was a problem. If you remember the first part, what he said is, hey, they sit in Moses' seat, meaning that they were in the seat of a teacher, like Moses was a major teacher in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, and especially in Exodus and Numbers, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy, all those, where he gave the law and all. But they were supposed to be teachers of that law. They were supposed to take the Moses teachings in the Bible and teach it. And they were teaching it. And he even said, do what they're saying, because they were quoting the Bible. Do the Bible. Nothing's wrong with the law. Nothing's wrong with the Bible. But they weren't practicing it themselves. And that's the thing that really irks God. We're not all perfect in practicing it. I'm practicing it preaching, do what I've taught. Ooh. But God forgives me, and I humble myself, and I'm getting better and better. See, if you keep going after Jesus and asking for his help, which they didn't, they turned from Jesus. You got to turn to Jesus and let him help you. So here's the next part. What they said is, what Jesus said, I'll kind of read it here, see if I can find it. Yeah, he said, for they, this is what he's talking about the Pharisees throughout this whole chapter, almost the whole chapter. It says, he says, where is it? Verse 4. It says, but what they do is they tie up, they bind people with heavy loads, like burdens, and we'll explain that a little bit. They tie up heavy loads, picture this, like the Pharisees, not literally taking it, but they tie them up, they get them, like, take this and not a physical rope, they don't literally tie people. But what their teachings and things like that was doing is they were tying them up with heavy loads here and put them on men's shoulders. So the people are carrying all this load, this big bag, this big burden. But they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. In other words, something that they were doing here, which we'll find out, I'm going to have you guess what it is. They were doing something, and they were binding them up, and they were bound up, the people that they were teaching, the students, instead of setting them free and helping them with it, they didn't lift a finger. All right, so here's the heavy load. This little guy right here has a burden, which I want to see if you could tell what it is. Down here, we're going to go through what it is, but look at the little character there. Oh, my heart bleeds for this guy. And this is a Pharisee over here, if you can see him. He's kind of smirking. He's kind of like, yeah, he gave him this burden, and he's just sitting there, and he's not helping him all. He's all relaxed over here. He's kind of looking over his shoulder, looking at him. And I drew this as like dark clouds up here. This is a big mountain. This is a lightning thing, and this is like rain. He's in a storm. You don't have to. I debated about whether I wanted all this. I could have even had this gone and just get this right here is the main thing. That young man right there who has all this load on him. Now, what is that burden? That's a question I like to see if you can guess what it is. And I have a multiple choice game here. So which is it? This is again from Matthew 23. 1, was it a load of sins and guilt and like feelings of sadness and pain and guilt and, man, I've done so wrong and all? Was it sins? Number 2, was it laws and legalities, legal stuff and rules? Was it a bunch of rules that the Pharisees were giving him? How about number 3? Was it troubles? Like this could represent troubles, problems, situations in their life. They're going through difficulties, hard times. Like that's what this burden is, and he's really, it's rough. He's going through rough times. Have you had those signs before? We all have, yeah, some more than others. And then, or was it could be like, what if this burden was worries and fears and depressions, like really feeling heavy with sadness and fears and worries. He's so worried and anxious about everything. And maybe a lot of fears. He's got so many fears. Now, the fact is, child, this burden could be any of these. No doubt. All of these can be a burden that you're going through. It could be sins and guilt, and you really feel bad for your sins, which is good that you feel bad about them. But, you keep hanging on to that burden. Or it could be law and a bunch of rules and legalities and everything, and like regulations and all. Or troubles and problem situations. You're going through worries, fears, depressions and all. Which is it in Matthew 23? Do you happen to, would you like to take a guess on what it is? If you said number 2, you are correct. The Pharisees were doing this. Oh, I had the wrong pen. Hold on for a second. I picked up the wrong pen. Well, I'll get this later. Oh, no, I got to get that off. So, yeah, the law, the legalities and rules, the Pharisee was putting all these burdens and heavy loads, a heavy load of what this guy is supposed to do. He's do this, do that, do this. Now, the thing is, the law is not burdensome. It is not wrong and it's not bad, the law of God. But what they did is they took the law and added to it. They did oral tradition. If you remember, I've talked about that. Trying to get that wrong pen off of that ink. I think I'm getting it. Oh my, I don't want to ruin my board here. It's an erasable thing. So what happened though is The Pharisees were taking the people, and they were teaching stuff, and they were really like loading so much on these people, all these laws plus extra stuff, and they did it harshly. Like, they didn't have any compassion. They didn't really teach with love and gentleness the Word of God. You know, so, and they were really burdening people down, like a bunch of rules and all. The other thing I'd like to say is, I'm going to draw another picture here, is, you know, if you're a young baby Christian, you know, you don't take a baby Christian and give him a whole load of stuff. Load, get it? Load, burden, a big bag of stuff. Or like a little kid. Let me draw a picture here. Let me get the right marker. Okay, let's draw a picture of a little kid here. Let's say this is a little kid. Okay, yay. There's one. And then this is a like 12-year-old, I don't know, 13, 14, teenager, maybe 16, 17. And then you get an older, like an adult here, like a mom dad type. So here is this guy right here, or girl. We'll just draw a stick figure. And this is an older one here. I don't know. I could put him up here. Or we could put him pretty tall. This is representing maybe the mature Christian. This guy's been at it for a while. Okay. So see the different stages of ages. Like this little guy, you don't take a baby Christian and you don't do a whole load of stuff. Like here's his bag and he has to carry it, you know, and then this. Now this guy, there's a lot more expectation, right, on him. Like you don't give keys to a car to a little one and expect them to drive. They're not ready for it. So the Pharisees were probably taking people and just doing so much when they're not able to handle it. God doesn't do that. He's really patient with people. He's very gentle. So he gives just enough so that you grow in it. And when you obey those things, and he gives you more, and you obey those things, he does want you to obey those things. He wants you to change. He wants you to grow up. Don't stay like this forever. But some people like to put too much on baby Christians. Let's say the Christian cusses. You know, he's a baby Christian, he cusses. He shouldn't cuss, but after, you know, give him time, give patience. Someone shouldn't say, well, you're not a Christian because you cuss. Or, you know, he slips and falls and all that. It's just like a little baby. They crawl and then they walk and they stumble and they fall a lot. After a while, they start walking. That's how it is in a Christian life. Well, burdening people and putting heavy loads on people that aren't ready for it. So if your child, as you're learning these Bible things, just walk with Jesus, walk with the Lord and pray and talk to him and read and learn all you can. And then he will little by little help you grow up, and you do what he tells you to do. Step by step, inch by inch, everything's a cinch, and you just step by step walk with Jesus, and you'll grow and you'll do well. And don't let people condemn you, like that's that burdening thing. Don't let them, you know, make you feel horrible. There are times I feel horrible when I've sinned, but don't take on this stuff. And don't you do the same thing to other people. Don't be a Pharisee where you're just telling others all this stuff and they're not ready for it. Maybe you lead somebody to Jesus. You know, just do it little by little. You know, get them in the Word as much as possible. Get them in praying a lot, and you can pray for them and all. But love them and be patient with them and be gentle. And I'll end with this. I think I'll end with this passage. Oh, I love this. This is one of my favorite passages. We did it earlier. Matthew chapter 11. Do you remember that? 28? I think it's 28. It says, come unto me. This is Jesus. Come unto me, all you that labor, working hard to be right, and are heavy laden. See that? Heavy laden. You're burdened. You got a sack of stuff on you. And I think in that passage, personally, I think he's talking about law, like doing the law of God, because the Bible in the Old Testament talks about a yoke. You know, I already talked about that. But anyway, come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. See, Pharisees weren't giving people rest. They were making them sweat for their salvation and work for it and all. It's burdensome. It's irksome. It's hard to keep. And Jesus says it's not hard to keep. He said, come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. A yoke is something that attaches, a lot of you know what it is. You have a cattle or an ox. You have another ox. And a yoke is a wooden beam or something that hooks up those oxes. Take my yoke. In my opinion, I like to think of Jesus being in the loop with you, and you're on that side. He takes a heavy part. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me. For why? For I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. It's not heavy. It's not hard to live the Christian life. There can be challenges for sure. It's challenging. But if you hook yourself and connect yourself and yoke up with Jesus, whoo, he kind of helps you do it. He lives through you. So this is wonderful. But it's super sad that verse in 4 is he told them what you guys are doing. And the end part, if you remember what I said, what Jesus said, he said, you don't even lift a finger to help them. Like you're burdening them and they just stand back like that Pharisee in that picture, just standing back, looking back, yeah. And he's not helping them. Let's say a person keeps stumbling and they keep falling. You need to go help them. Hey, it's okay. God will forgive. Let's ask God to forgive you. Let's say he's a gossip or she's a gossip. Or you keep lying. You keep lying, you know. Well, you need to stop lying, but God's patient. And someone needs to keep helping them and love them and be patient with people. Pharisees weren't patient. All right, well, there you go. That's a good verse for us to remember. God bless you. Love you. Thanks for listening.